Good afternoon, everybody. Today I am going to talk about the evolution of Tolkien's mythology, how it started, and where he's at when he died. Um, so get right into it. So basically, this starts basically when he was a kid. His mom taught him Greek and Latin, and so he developed a love for languages. So he studied that as a teenager, and he was in school, and he got into Anglo-Saxon and Finnish, Welsh, all these different languages. So he wanted to develop his own language. So he created Elven and Gnomish, and then about the time World War I started in 1914, he was writing poetry. And so this kind of world he started to develop. He wanted a place where his languages can grow. And so he created Middle Earth, which was then not called Middle Earth. That name wouldn't come till later. But he did, I think it was around 1910, he came across the poem Christ in Anglo-Saxon. And there was a line in there that said, "Hail Arundel, brightest of angels, over Middle Earth sent unto men." And so he started writing about this character, Arundel, and that's what most of his poems were about, him and his journeys. And of course, he did serve in the war, the Battle of the Somme. And so this world was developing in his mind, and he contracted trench fever, so he's in the hospital a lot. But while he was recovering, he began to write this history of the elves, and he would call the Book of Lost Tales, which I believe started with the fall of Gondolin, and then he wrote the Tale of Tinuviel, Tarambar and the Foe of Loki, and the Cottage of Lost Play. And so he started writing these stories about a mariner, Ariel, who was a descendant of Arundel, who went to an island where the elves were living, and they told him their history. And this, of course, was the Book of Lost Tales. And this island would become England. He wanted to create a mythology for England that had no mythology. Whatever they had was mostly destroyed in the Norman invasion in 1066. And, of course, the war ended. He continued to write. He worked on the Oxford English Dictionary, became a reader at Leeds University, and then professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford. And, of course, he would later change over to teaching English language and literature. But throughout his career, after the Book of Lost Tales, he began to cast some of the stories into verse, like the Children of Hurin, and the Legendarium, which was Tale of Tinuviel in verse, and others, but a lot of it was unfinished. He just wrote parts of, or, he kind of wrote out Children of Hurin and Legendarium, stopped at a certain point, though, and just left it abandoned. I know Legendarium, he tried to, after Lord of the Rings was published, he tried to rewrite it around 1925 to explain to a friend of his that he lent the Children of Hurin to. He wrote down basically what was a resume, or I guess you could say a summary of the history contained in the Book of Lost Tales. Of course, at this time, Ariel became Eowyn, and the island, Tol Eressëa, where the elves lived, would not be England. He would actually be from England and would sail there. But yeah, he wrote the sketch of the mythology, and out of that, he wrote the Quinta Nodorinwa and the Quinta Silmarillion, which was the next phase, because the Quinta Nodorinwa became the Quinta Silmarillion, or just the Silmarillion. And of course, at the time he wrote the Quinta Nodorinwa, he started telling his children stories about a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Hobbit was published in 1937, at which time he wrote the Quinta Silmarillion and other related materials. They asked for a sequel. He began to write The Lord of the Rings. His mythology developed even more during that and changed. And of course, he was at this point calling it Middle-earth. Middle-earth is just our world. It comes from Midgard and Middenjord, which Middenjord is the Anglo-Saxon form of the Norse Midgard, which translated to Middle-earth. So he did that. His languages continue to evolve as well. Of course, The Lord of the Rings was published. It's one of the most popular books in the world. Millions of readers. Number 2 book behind the Bible. It was like the second most read book behind the Bible. I don't know if that still holds or not. Because I'm pretty sure there are books that outsold Lord of the Rings. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments if they know of any. I'm sure there's data you can find on the internet. I would have to look that up. But anyway, so throughout his life, he tried to get the Silmarillion in a publishable form, which of course never happened. But Christopher Tolkien, it was left to him, his son, Christopher, it was left to him as his literary heir and the executor of the Tolkien estate to get the Silmarillion in a published form. And of course, out of that, you get Unfinished Tales, The History of Middle-earth, and The History of Middle-earth just explains this whole evolution. You do not get drafts of The Hobbit in this. There is a 2-part series that has The Hobbit, but it was not edited by Christopher Tolkien. Someone else edited it. I've never read it. Can't even remember what it's called right now. I hope to one day read it, because I have not read the original first edition of The Hobbit, which was different, because as you know, Gollum and his story, how Bilbo found the rings in Gollum's cave. Originally, in the first edition, it was that they was going to have the riddle game, and Gollum was just going to give that to him as a present, as a prize for winning the contest. Of course, when he read The Lord of the Rings, he changed the story, so he had to go and revise The Hobbit. He attempted even to rewrite The Hobbit and make it fit more with The Lord of the Rings. He only got through the first 3 chapters. I would love to have seen where he went with that, because it would have been great. But that's it, I guess. Kind of lost my train of thought there, but and yeah, there's still material out there that needs to be published, but not a whole lot. Pretty much everything's out there. It is available to you if you want to research this further. I highly recommend the History of Middle-earth. It's a 12-volume set. I have a 3-volume edition. It just has all 12 books in 3 volumes, which would be, and it would cost me like $200. But it would be a valuable tool if you want to, know more. But obviously, you had to have read the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales in order to really understand it. That's it. That's how it all evolved, and I will probably go into more detail in a future video, because I will probably redo this at a later time. But that's it. I wanted to keep this under 10 minutes, so I talk to everyone later. I hope you all have a good day.